Individuals on their own, it's much, much harder. But when you start linking in with like-minded people, which was the idea behind the event, was to just give people a venue to meet like-minded people, share ideas, then you can take that back into your community. Think Local essentially is a movement. So it's not an organization, it's not a company. It's essentially encouraging people to stop and look around locally where they can source their food, where they can get their, take responsibility for their healthcare in terms of, seeking out local. So in terms of where policies are coming from currently, they're not being driven by grassroots demands. They're coming from the top down. So we've got people who are not even just removed nationally, but actually removed internationally. They're the UN, they're the EU, World Economic Forum. These are organizations that are completely removed from the individual's life. They don't know them. They don't understand who they are. They just see them as, numbers. It's what we look, it's what we're kind of becoming aware of. And they're being imposed top down. The ideas that are, that we have to live a certain way, even down to things like, what we're going to eat, that we're being encouraged to now look at bugs, to eat bugs. I mean, really?
So is that regulation not a good thing? Are some problems not so big that you really do need a global response to them?
That's a really good question. I mean, a global response to certain situations, again, when you come down to the individual, only the individual knows their lives, the way that their lives are working. And I believe in ecology in the true sense of the word, which means the study of consequences. So if you have a decision that you're making about yourself, you need to check what is it going to do for you, what are you going to lose, etc. Once you've identified that from a positive point of view, that you're doing the right thing for you, that's not hurting anybody else, that has a positive ripple effect. If you're just completely going from the outside in, people are being encouraged essentially to sacrifice themselves, their lives, and even their children's freedom for something, the greater good, for example. And the question is, who actually benefits from that? Because it's not the individual. So who is benefiting from that? And we have to look at who's driving those policies and what do they get from this. So in terms of what does Think Local mean from an individual's point of view, what they can actually do in terms of community, our first port of call is food. And we just said, if you can find your local farmers and go and talk to them. And we had two farmers who were lined up to speak at the event. One has 26 acres, and he is completely off-grid. In fact, I believe they're both off-grid in the sense that, excuse me, they generate their own electricity, they have their own water, they don't take any subsidies, they sell directly to either customers in terms of a membership basis, or to restaurants, or to co-ops. And for them, they're actually only growing and breeding enough animals and growing enough fruit and vegetables to basically service their local area. And what they've said is, if you can identify how much you eat in terms of chickens and beef and lamb and vegetables, just think about how much you actually eat on a monthly basis or a yearly basis, and go to the farmers and say, look, this is what I eat, multiply that by the number of people in the area. Can you provide that? If we came directly to you, we cut out the middlemen, we cut out the big corporations, the big supermarket chains, etc. What can we do? How can the farmers can't do this on their own. The farmers are busy farming. It's a full-time job. It's a very taxing and demanding job. And they need our support. They need us to go to them and say, this is what we'll do for you. And we would like them to come back to us and actually work together. So it's all about cooperation. Individuals on their own, it's much, much harder. But when you start linking in with like-minded people, which was the idea behind the event, was to just give people a venue to meet like-minded people, share ideas, then you can take that back into your community. So it's not as I said, it's not an organization. It's an idea. It's a concept. And it's very much to get people to we talk about shop local at Christmas, we talk about shop local in times of, austerity. Why? Because it's really important to keep, as whatever the financial benefits, that someone has actually within their own town, and be able to keep that going, because we've seen a lot of, especially Midland towns, completely just decimated with the move to more, kind of globalist organizations. So I know that there are lots of food co-ops. I think that's probably the best example of how people come together to source locally grown, locally produced food and products. And what's beautiful about that is that it's, again, run by a group of people. It's not one person. So there are co-ops that are actually currently existing around the country, and they're looking at replicating that to help, again, support the local producers, the local artisan. These are an island, they're already operating. Because they're small, they don't have, they have a very simple website, which just you go on and you can actually pick and choose, what you're going to order. And obviously all the orders have to be paid for in advance. So there's you're not putting a lot of financial burden on the organisers. They're already, you pay in advance for the food and then you go and collect it. So it's a great way of making sure that there's the demand is understood. And so the suppliers can be, they're not wasting food and they're not wasting products and time.